Hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning. Coach Kevin here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing I'd like to go ahead and do is share my screen with you and point out some things that should be helpful, especially if you're here with us for the very first time. Welcome, welcome. First thing I'd like to do is point out that we have a Facebook group that actually coincides with our meetup group. It has the exact same name. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. The way you can find us is you can go into your own Facebook account, go to the search Facebook function, and start typing in, I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. And you will find us. Come ask to join us, and we'll be happy to have you. The other way to find us is you could go directly to facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich. So there's two ways you can come find us. We'd love to have you come join us. Now, why would you want to come join us? A few different reasons. One of the reasons is if we have any special announcements for the group, we usually like to keep that pinned up at the top. The other thing is, as long as I remember to hit the record button, which I typically do, you will see here, there we go, there was yesterday, 2/2/2021. What I like to do is record our Zoom meetings and make them available to everybody in the group. So for instance, let's say you're on today and you really love what was talked about and you're like, hey, I want to go through that again. Well, here's where you can find it. Join our Facebook group and you can do that. The other thing is, let's say for instance, you're here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. For some reason, Thursday, you can't make it, but you're back on Friday. And let's say we're going through some material that takes maybe, I don't know, several days to go through, and you missed one of those days. It's a good way for you to get caught up on what we're doing. So that would be another reason you'd want to join us. Also, it gives you a chance to interact with us and maybe ask some additional questions. Some people will do that outside of the 45 minutes or so we have together Monday through Friday. Okay. So come join us at I Want to Be Really Rich. And I do not apologize for it. Come join us on Facebook. We'd love to have you. Next thing I want to point out to you is what we are in the process of going through right now. So I'm going to give a quick synopsis. We started November 5th of last year. And since that time, we started out going through a book called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And that particular book gave exactly what it says. It is essentially the formula for manifesting more money and wealth in your life. So it gave you the step-by-step formula on how to do that. The next thing that we went through after that was a book called Hidden Treasures by Leslie Householder. That particular book discusses the 7 laws that govern receiving more money and wealth in our lives. Not just money or wealth, but anything that we would like to receive. And a lot of people have heard of the law of attraction. They don't necessarily know that the law of attraction is actually a secondary law or subsidiary law to the law of vibration. And a lot of people don't know there are actually 7 laws that govern receiving more money and wealth in our lives. Universal laws. So if you don't understand that they exist, that doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means that you may not be living in accordance with them and you might be harming yourself instead of helping yourself. So once you understand what the laws are, how they function, what they're meant to do, you can make sure that the way that you live your life and the thoughts that you have, the words you speak, the actions you take are in alignment with those laws to make receiving money and wealth much easier in your life. Then we went through what I would call the Reader's Digest version of the law of attraction, a book called It Works. That was actually really short. We went through that in a day. Then we went through an article that was written by one of my personal coaches and mentors, Bob Proctor. He actually is someone I hired to be my coach. And in turn, I was trained to be a coach for his programs and things that he teaches. Now I'm independent. But one of the things he gave me was this article called Decision. So why did we choose to go through that? Well, to be perfectly honest, it is one of the things that most people have difficulty with. And if you don't make decisions properly and stick with the decisions that you've made once you've made them properly, you're putting out all kinds of mixed signals to God and the universe about what you want to receive, and therefore it gets messy. And you don't ultimately end up with what you want. Instead, you end up with kind of a hot mess. The next thing we went through after that is we went into a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Why did we do that? Okay, well, it's good to know the formula. It's good to know how the universe operates. We also need to understand how we operate and what's going on, particularly at a subconscious level. Because if our programming is in opposition to what it is that we want to manifest in our lives, it's never going to happen. Plain and simple. You won't ultimately end up with what you want. You may end up with little things here and there, little bits and pieces or portions, but you won't end up with what you want because you have programming that's in opposition to what you want. And your subconscious mind will make sure that you self-sabotage. Now, the cool thing about the subconscious mind is when you get it on board and in alignment with what you want, it will help move heaven and earth to make sure that what you want actually manifests in your life. So Joseph Murphy does a phenomenal job explaining the subconscious mind, what it is, how it functions, how it got programmed, and how to reprogram it for the success you desire in your life. Okay. And now that leads us to where we are right now. We're in a book called The Power of Awareness. It is written by Neville Goddard. It was written a long time ago, early 1900s. So he'll speak a little bit differently. Some of the books that we've gone through or things that we've gone through are older, but some of them are newer. This particular one was, like I said, done a while ago. And why are we going through it? Because it essentially tells us how we work. And more importantly, who we are and what we're capable of. Okay. It gives us a very good understanding of, once we understand what's being said by Neville, we get to understand much, much better what we are capable of doing and the power within us and how to actually utilize it to, again, attract and receive what we want into our lives. So that's what we're in the process of going through now. And I own a Kindle copy. I have an Audible copy. However, when I go through and share things with you guys, I like to see if I can find a free copy of something. That way you can go grab it for yourself if you like to, and use that free copy to go through the material together. So I just typed in the Power of Awareness PDF. For me, the first thing that popped up was this. I don't know if it's what's going to pop up first for you. However, I went to Google and this came up. Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard, Law of, and it's actually connected to a website, www.law-of-attraction-haven.com. And I like this copy of it. There's definitely others out there, but this is the one I chose. It's the one that we're going through right now. And if you would like to go grab it, what I did is I clicked on the link and kabang, what came up was this. Now it actually brought me to page 1, not to page 51 where we're at right now, but it brought us to page 1. And I didn't have to put in a name or email address, and I just used my function here to download it, and now it's on my laptop. And that's the one that I'm using. You could use it to download it to your phone, your laptop, your desktop, whatever it is that you use to follow along. I highly recommend that you get it for multiple reasons. I highly recommend you go back and watch what we went through to get to this point so far, back to the videos, because not only do we do some reading, but we have some great discussion and question and answer time every day. At the very least, you should probably go get yourself a copy and get caught up with us. And that will be definitely powerful to you. And there's already been a lot shared with us. Obviously, we're practically through this particular, it's a short work, a short book. We're almost done with it. And what has been said by Neville up to this point is definitely beneficial for understanding, again, who you are and how you function and what you're capable of. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start reading where we left off yesterday. And I want you guys to know, especially if you're brand new, that you're going to have a chance. I'd love for you to do so, actually, to interact with us. However, we're going to do that at the appropriate time. What we'll do is we'll come out of screen share, and then I will give you the opportunity to share what you want to share, ask whatever questions you want to ask, and you'll just come off of mute and we'll do that. You'll see how that functions if you're brand new, because hopefully Everybody else is ready to share and set the example to show you what we're doing. All right, I'm going to take a quick sip of water here, and we're going to jump in where we left off yesterday. Case study 8. The man and wife in this story, excuse me, have attended my lectures for a number of years. Okay, so they've been learning for a while. And it is an interesting illustration of the conscious use, so the on-purpose use of this law by two people concentrating on the same objective at one time. Okay, sometimes you ask, do you have to have your partner in sync with you? And not necessarily. However, check out what happens when you are in sync. This man and wife were an exceptionally devoted couple. Their life was completely happy and entirely free from any problems or frustrations. For some time, they had planned to move into a larger apartment. The more they thought about it, the more they realized that what they had their hearts set on was a beautiful penthouse. In discussing it together, the husband explained that he wanted one with a huge window looking out on a magnificent view. The wife said she would like to have one side of the walls mirrored from top to bottom. They both wanted to have a wood-burning fireplace. It was a must that this apartment be in New York City. For months, they had searched for just such an apartment in vain. In fact, the situation in the city was such that the securing of any kind of apartment was almost an impossibility. They were so scarce that not only were there waiting lists for them, but all sorts of special deals, including premiums, the buying of furniture, etc., were involved. New apartments were being leased long before they were completed, many being rented from the blueprints of the building. Early in the spring, after months of fruitless seeking, they finally think about this. This is their action taking. This is them using their logic. Okay. I'm not saying there's no action to be taken. We've been very clear about that over the time we've been together. There is action to be taken, but these guys are trying at this point to use their logic. They're trying to use their experience, and they're trying to use their actions. Early in the spring, after months of fruitless seeking, they finally located one which they seriously considered. It was a penthouse apartment in a building just being completed on Upper Fifth Avenue, facing Central Park. It had one serious drawback. Being a new building, it was not subject to rent control, and the couple felt the yearly rental was exorbitant. In fact, it was several $1,000s a year more than they had considered paying. During the spring months of March and April, they continued looking at various penthouses throughout the city, but they always came back to this one. Finally, they decided to increase the amount that they would pay substantially and made a proposition which the agent for the building agreed to forward to the owners for consideration. All right. It was at this point, without discussing it with each other, each determined to apply the law of assumption. This is what they should have done in the first place. It was not until later that each learned what the other had done. Night after night, they both fell asleep in imagination in the apartment they were considering. The husband, lying with his eyes closed, would imagine that his bedroom windows were overlooking the park. He would imagine going to the window the first thing in the morning and enjoying the views. He felt himself sitting on the terrace overlooking the park, having cocktails with his wife and friends, all thoroughly enjoying it. He filled his mind with actually feeling himself in the penthouse and on the terrace. During all this time, unknown to him, his wife was doing the same thing. Several weeks went by without any decision on the part of the owners. But they continued to imagine as they fell asleep each night that they were actually sleeping in the penthouse. One day, to their complete surprise, one of the employees in the apartment building in which they lived told them that the penthouse there was vacant. They were astonished because theirs was one of the most desirable buildings in the city with a perfect location right on Central Park. They knew there was a long waiting list of people trying to get an apartment in their building. The fact that a penthouse had unexpectedly become available was kept quiet by management because they were not in a position to consider any applicants for it. Upon learning that it was vacant, the couple immediately made a request that it be rented to them, only to be told that this was impossible. The fact was that not only were there several people on a waiting list for a penthouse in the building, but it was actually promised to one family. Despite this, the couple had a series of meetings with management, at the conclusion of which the apartment was theirs. The building being subject to rent control, their rental was just about what they had planned to pay when they first started looking for a penthouse. The location, the apartment itself, and the large terrace surrounding it on the southwest and north was beyond their expectations. So they actually got something even better. And in the living room on one side is a giant window, 15 feet by 8 feet, with a magnificent view of Central Park. One wall is mirrored from floor to ceiling, and there is a wood burning fireplace. Pretty cool stuff. All right. Chapter 24, Failure. This book would not be complete without some discussion of failure in the attempted use of the law of assumption. It is entirely possible that you either have had or will have a number of failures in this respect, many of them in really important matters. If having read this book, having a thorough knowledge of the application and working of the law of assumption, you faithfully apply it in an effort to attain some intense desire and fail, what is the reason? I'm pausing for effect. If to the question, did you persist enough, you can answer yes, and still the attainment of your desire was not realized, what is the reason for failure? The answer to this is the most important factor in the successful use of the law of assumption. The time it takes your assumption to become fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling of already being what you want to be, of already having what you desire. Let me repeat this. The answer to this is the most important factor in the successful use of the law of assumption. The time it takes your assumption to become fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling of already being what you want to be, of already having what you desire. The fact that it does not feel natural to you to be what you imagine yourself to be is the secret of your failure. Regardless of your desire, regardless of how faithfully and intelligently you follow the law, if you do not feel natural about what you want to be, you will not be it. If it does not feel natural for you to get a better job, you'll not get a better job. The whole principle is vividly expressed by the Bible phrase, you die in your sins. You do not transcend from your present level to the state desired. How can this feeling of naturalness be achieved? The secret lies in one word, imagination. How can this feeling of naturalness be achieved? The secret lies in one word, imagination. For example, this is a very simple illustration. Assume that you are securely chained to a large, heavy iron bench. You could not possibly run. In fact, you could not even walk. In these circumstances, it would not be natural for you to run. You could not even feel that it was natural for you to run. But you could easily imagine yourself running. In that instant, while your consciousness is filled with your imagined running, you have forgotten that you are bound. In imagination, your running was completely natural. The essential feeling of naturalness can be achieved by persistently filling your consciousness with imagination, imagining yourself being what you want to be or having what you desire. Progress can spring only from your imagination, from your desire to transcend your present level. What you truly and literally must feel is that with your imagination, all things are possible. You must realize that changes are not caused by caprice, but by a change of consciousness. You may fail to achieve or sustain the particular state of consciousness necessary to produce the effect you desire, but once you know that consciousness is the only reality and is the sole creator of your particular world, and have burnt this truth into your whole being, then you know that success or failure is entirely in your own hands. Whether or not you are disciplined enough to sustain the required state of consciousness in specific instances has no bearing on the truth of the law itself, that an assumption, if persisted in, will harden in fact. The certainty of the truth of the law must remain despite great disappointment and tragedy, even when you see the light of life go out and all the world go on as though it were still day. You must not believe that because your assumption failed to materialize, the truth that assumptions do materialize is a lie. If your assumptions are not fulfilled, it's because of some error or weakness in your consciousness. However, these errors and weaknesses can be overcome. Therefore, press on to the attainment of even higher levels by feeling that you already are the person you want to be. And remember that the time it takes your assumption to become reality is proportionate to the naturalness of being it. Man surrounds himself with the true image of himself. Let me repeat that. Man or woman surrounds him or herself with the true image of him or herself. Every spirit builds itself a house, and beyond its house a world, and beyond its world a heaven. Know that the world exists for you. For you, the phenomenon is perfect. What we are, that only can we see. All that Adam had, all that Caesar could, you can do, you have and can do. Adam called his house heaven, or called, his house heaven and earth. Caesar called his house Rome. You perhaps call yours a cobbler's trade, 100 acres of land, or a scholar's garret. Yet line for line and point for point, your dominion is as great as theirs, though without fine name. Build therefore in your world as fast as you conform your life to the pure idea in your mind that will unfold its great proportion. Emerson. Okay, chapter 25, faith. A miracle is the name given by those who have no faith to the works of faith. A miracle is the name given by those who have no faith to the works of faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The very reason for the law of assumption is contained in this quotation. If there were not deep-seated awareness that that which you hoped for had substance and was possible of attainment, it would be impossible to assume the consciousness of being or having it. It is the fact that creation is finished and everything exists that stirs you to hope, and hope, in turn, implies expectation, and without expectation of success, it would be impossible to use consciously the law of assumption. Evidence is a sign of actuality. Thus, the quotation means that faith is the awareness of the reality of that which you assume, a conviction of the reality of things which you do not see, the mental perception of the reality of the invisible. Consequently, it is obvious that a lack of faith means disbelief in the existence of that which you desire. Inasmuch as that which you experience is the faithful reproduction of your state of consciousness, lack of faith will mean perpetual failure in any conscious use of the law of assumption. In all the ages of history, faith has played a major role. It permeates all the great religions of the world. It is woven all through mythology, and yet today it is almost universally misunderstood. Contrary to popular opinion, the efficacy of faith is not due to the work of any outside agency. It is from first to last an activity of your own consciousness. The Bible is full of many statements about faith, of the true meaning which few are aware. Here are some typical examples. Unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them, but the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. In this quotation, the us and them make clear that all of us hear the gospel. Gospel means good news. Very obviously, good news for you would be that you had attained your desire. This is always being preached to you by your infinite self. To hear that which you desire does not exist, and you need only to accept it in consciousness is good news. It does exist, excuse me. To hear that that which you desire does exist, and you need only accept it in consciousness is good news. Not mixing with faith means to deny the reality of that which you desire. Henceforth, there is no profit, attainment possible. O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? The meaning of faithless has been made clear. Perverse means turned the wrong way. In other words, the consciousness of not being what you want to be. To be faithless, that is, to disbelieve in the reality of that which you assume, is to be perverse. How long shall I be with you means that the fulfillment of your desire is predicated upon your change to the right state of consciousness. It is just as though that which you desire is telling you that it will not be yours until you turn from being faithless and perverse to righteousness. As already stated, righteousness is the consciousness of already being that which you want to be. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured and seeing him who is invisible. Egypt means darkness, belief in many gods causes. The king symbolizes the power of outside conditions or circumstances. He is your concept of yourself as already being what you want to be. Enduring is seeing him who is invisible, means persisting in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. Thus, this quotation means that by persisting in the assumption that you already are the person you want to be, you rise above all doubt, fear, and belief in the power of outside conditions or circumstances, and your world inevitably conforms to your assumption. The dictionary definitions of faith: the ancient of the mind or understanding to the truth, unwavering adherence to principle, are so pertinent that they might well have been written with the law of assumption in mind. Faith does not question, faith knows. Chapter 26. Let's see, what time are we right now? We will go ahead and stop here for today. We only have a little more to go, but I'll add something on tomorrow. And welcome, welcome, welcome. Looks like some more people joined us since we got started. Glad to have everybody here. And let's see who is here right now. I think we may have a new person. So not sure. We just might. By the way, hang on a second. Hey, Rich, you don't need to come off mute, but just want to let you know we had technical difficulty last night. I will get back with you. All right.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, so here's what we do now. This is your opportunity to share what you would like to share or ask whatever questions you would like to ask. So what is appropriate to share? Anything that you've done that is manifested for you, that you've had some success with, feel free to share your experience and your stories, utilizing the principles that we've been learning to manifest things in your life that have been wonderful. Particularly if it's money or wealth, great, but if it's something else, that's okay too. The other thing that you can share is anything, any ahas or anything that you've learned from what we read today or from what we've went over in the past. And as far as questions go, excuse me, that would be in relationship to the same thing. Anything related to what we've studied in the past, what we went over today, and or anything in relationship to manifesting more money and wealth in your life. So here's your opportunity to share. Please do. And go ahead and go. Just come off mute and start sharing or asking your question.
Hi, Kevin and Sunshine. How are you doing today?
Terrific. Terrific. How about you?
Blessed and highly favored. Thanks for asking.
Like it?
So I have some questions about, I think earlier you mentioned something about not getting what we wanted, and then
Mhm.
more resonated with me when you went over the chapter of failure.
Uh-huh.
So I want to be sure I'm not doing too many things, so I don't end up with mush.
Okay. Okay.
I don't feel in my spirit I'm going to end up with mush. I think what I'm wanting just takes time, and
Sure.
so I'm okay with that. But when the guy from The Secret was talking about, I think it was from The Secret, or from one of the other books that we
Okay.
read, said that he took a number and he wrote it down and he woke up to it every morning.
Okay, Jack
Um,
Canfield. Uh-huh.
yeah. So I have two stickies with
Okay.
a number on it. They're the same number at least.
Uh-huh.
And then I also have, someone else did this, I think it was in the movie as well, where they took their bank statement and they whited it out
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
changed the amount. And so I
Yes.
have
Uh-huh.
that one too.
Okay.
None of those numbers in the bank statement correlate with the two.
Shoot, we lost your voice right after you said bank statement correlate. You there, Sunshine?
Yep. Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Now we can. Yes.
Okay. Neither the numbers on the stickies and the numbers on the bank statement, they don't match each other or anything like that.
Okay.
But I know I have been having a little bit of hard time visualizing
Mhm.
sometimes. I just went back to the VYBO.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. What are you having trouble when you say trouble visualizing? A stack of money? What is it that you're trying to visualize, first of all?
the whole entire house that I
Okay.
want to live in.
Okay.
So I can only visualize bits and pieces of it right
Okay.
now. And today I found this thing where you can build your house. So I'm gonna try
Awesome.
that to see if that
Okay.
helps.
Uh-huh.
Um, and not the lifestyle.
Lost you again. I don't know if that's me or could be my internet. No, I see Landon's head just moved, so my internet's working.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can again. Uh-huh.
Okay. Um, Going to the garage and seeing my car or seeing my motorcycle, those things I'm okay with.
Okay.
And then that's about where I'm at, and still doing my 300 list
Okay.
daily.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so here's what I would say. Give you a little bit of peace of mind. When I've come into having and receiving like the house that I'm living in at the moment, yes, I had, things, different rooms and whatnot, but they haven't all lined up perfectly in a sense. But I've gotten a lot of times better than what I was asking because I throw out this or something better, which so I'm totally open for the something better. I would say if you can feel even parts and pieces feel real to you, that's fine. Even if it was
Okay.
even if it was like the bedroom in the house, the more rooms that you can feel that way about. But the other thing too, possibly, this is just a thought, because I don't know how you use your current house. If you have rooms in your current house that you don't spend a whole lot of time in doing anything, then you probably don't visualize doing much in those rooms, right? I mean,
Mm,
I had a house, I'll give you a for instance. I had a house in Arizona that it was just me, my wife, and two kids. And that particular house, you know, everybody's got, goes back quite a number of years, but square footage wise, it's 3,600 square feet. Okay. And a wife and two kids, you know, from a practicality standpoint, 3,600 square feet, there were obviously, unless they were like monster bedrooms, right? There were obviously more bedrooms and bathrooms and stuff than we actually probably used every day. So in that particular house, before I had kind of visualized moving there, there were things I wanted. So I had visualized a backyard a certain way and a kitchen kind of a certain way and some other things in our master bedroom. And ultimately, when we ended up with the house, you know, and bedroom for the kids and stuff, this house ended up having more stuff than what we had originally anticipated. It had more space than we were even originally anticipating, but we were able to receive it for the price that we wanted, and we bought it. So there were only certain parts of it that I had imagined that were exactly or really close to what the house had. And then this one just had more stuff. Like I said, it was even nicer than what I originally anticipated and was bigger than originally anticipated. And again, not need but want kind of thing. But there were, even once we lived in that house, at least for me, there were parts of the house I didn't really go into. Maybe my kids used it or my wife used it or whatever. So for me to naturally visualize like a sewing room, that might be something. My wife's sewing craft room, that might be something my wife, which she did, by the way, and she ended up with one. I didn't visualize a sewing and craft room, but she did. So that's one of the extra rooms that she got, right? So that's what was kind of cool about this. So, but I felt the feeling, what it talked about is natural. I felt natural living around that kind of life and the neighbors that I would have and the lifestyle that I would be living. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. As far as here's another thing I would tell you, because this is actually something that's come up for me very recently in my thinking and learning too. So Jack can't, because a lot of you guys have brought this up and people will constantly bring it up, you know, about writing down amounts of money and things like that, you know, because I talk about deciding the life you want to live and then let the money reach up to the lifestyle you've got, right? Versus putting in that dollar figure. The reason I'm not opposed to dollar figures per se, as much as I don't think very many people understand what the dollar represents. So it doesn't have the emotional impact, you know, 100, if I don't think, I'm just being honest, I could be wrong. Okay. I think everybody on this particular Zoom call right now, you could say you want it, but you couldn't even fathom what you would do with $100 million. Now you could say, well, yeah, I could go buy a house in LA that somebody's listed for $100 million. But by the time you moved into that particular house, you would be like, I'm not saying you couldn't at some point. I'm saying where we're sitting right now, that is probably like to have experienced anything even close to that already, possibly even in imagination and holding on to that. There's no reference point yet, even within imagination, kind of. I mean, the only reference you could reference in your mind, like watching Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella, and you can envision a castle, right? But you would have to almost go there to do it, because very few of us have ever even walked through a place like that, yet alone lived in something like that, right? Doesn't mean you can't have it. But so $100 million for most of us would be well above and beyond paying for almost anything and everything we could personally want to buy at this point in our life. We would end up buying the things we want, and we would end up kind of just spending money for the sake of spending money because we have it. Now that is fun too. That's a great exercise to help you grow, is to take a dollar figure. I think Takira said it the other day, she picked some arbitrary number. But to pick a number and go spend it every day in your mind, that's actually a good idea. Or to even start today with 1,000 and go spend it, then tomorrow you spend 2, then the next day you spend 3, then the next day you spend 4. Eventually you will be spending $100,000 in a day. And that will stretch your brain, that'll stretch your thinking, which is really a cool exercise to do something like that. And by spending it in your mind and actually enjoying it and believing in it you are living it, virtually first, and it's more likely to come to pass. Whatever helps create that feeling that it talked about of being natural for you is what you ought to do. Okay, going back to Jack Canfield in the $100,000, because that was the first check that went up on the ceiling above his bed. The key to the receiving, when he did receive it, the key was not the 100,000 above the bed. That was a reminder. That was a reminder to go meditate and think. What he did is he spent his time in meditation, thinking and feeling, living in his mind what he considered to be a $100,000 lifestyle. And once that became natural for him, that's when things started to show up. And he said, hey, for 90 days, I didn't have any good ideas. Nothing really happened, right? For 90 days, but I kept doing this thing. And then he got an idea. He had this idea. I have this book I've written, and this wasn't Chicken Soup for the Soul. It was something else. I've got this particular book that I've written. So this was a thought that came to him. And, if enough people knew about the book, if I sold it for whatever, his profit wasn't going to be high with a publisher. If I got a quarter a piece or 50 cents, I forget the dollar amount. Let's call it a quarter a piece. If enough people knew about it, I could certainly sell 400,000 copies of this book. Now that's different than trying to force it through a channel, because I've talked about this too, when you're trying to force your good through something. He was first inspired with a thought. And I actually think that God will help us understand what to meditate on and even pray for as we're going through this process. It's like, what should I ask for, right? In this process. So his thought got focused on that particular book. And again, he still didn't know what to do. He just thought he had that thought. So now what he started doing is he lived his lifestyle in his mind. He'd written the thing, stuck it on the ceiling, lived the lifestyle in his mind, but he also started to feel and visualize that he had sold 400,000 copies of this book. Then the next thing that happened to him is he's in a grocery store or Circle K, whatever, right? Convenience market. He was in some kind of store in the checkout section, and he saw the National Enquirer. And it kind of stood out for him, and he thought, hey, if my book was in the National Enquirer, an article or something, I don't know why National Enquirer, but that was his thing, that maybe that would work. But again, he didn't know anybody that wrote for the National Enquirer. He didn't have a friend, it wasn't like he's like, I'm going to go call Joe because Joe works for the National Enquirer, or Susie writes articles, or he didn't know anybody there. And then he's still going about his life. And so he's now he's got the money on the roof or on the ceiling. And again, this is all inspired, okay? Money on the ceiling, live the lifestyle in your mind, which led to the thought about the book, which led to the thought of, the National Enquirer. Then he goes and does a lecture somewhere, and a lady comes up to him afterwards and says, I really liked what you were talking about. I'd love to do an interview on you. And Jack Canfield's like, hey, that's great, or whatever. He goes, so who do you write for? Well, she goes, I write for so-and-so, but I'm mostly a freelancer, but I do most of my work, I freelance for the National Enquirer. And that's when in the movie The Secret, he goes, right? Mm-hmm. So she interviewed him and talked about him, and he got to promote his book in the National Enquirer. And what happened is his book started to sell, and I forget the dollar figure. It was just under $100,000.
Yeah, it was 99.
Yeah, $94,000, $96,000. He's like, well, were we mad and upset? We're like, no, we were amazed, right? And then his wife was like, well, work for 100,000. Do you think it would work for $1 million? He's like, I don't know. And that was his, I don't know, wasn't like a bunch of doubt. It was like, I haven't tried that before, right? We haven't even, but with the same process, right? I've now learned a process. I did what I was supposed to do. Would it work for something else? In their mind, something bigger. I don't know. Let's try. So he didn't doubt it. He just took that through the process. And that's when him and Mark Victor Hansen came together and created Chicken Soup for the Soul. And that's when he got his first $1 million check, for Chicken Soup for the Soul. So the point is, you can be guided in your thoughts and your directions all along the way to do this, but it's the feeling of it being natural for you living the life that you want to live. If he had just wrote a check for $100,000 and just repeated to himself a zillion times over and over again, I earn $100,000, I earn 100. If there's not the emotional attachment and it's not representative of something for these people, then you're not going to receive it because it doesn't feel natural for you. It was the naturalness of him imagining the $100,000 lifestyle that gave him the $100,000. It was the imagination. He had to take his imagination and his lifestyle up more notches to get to the $1 million lifestyle. You know, but he also says in The Secret too, in a different spot, he's like, I live a life that people dream of. You know, I live in a $4 million mansion. I've got a wife to die for. I take these vacations. That was the lifestyle. It's the money that's come to him is what is needed to actually support the lifestyle. So that's what we go for, is the feeling of naturalness. And that's why we have to use our imagination. And that's what we're talking about today. Use your imagination. If you can't feel it now, then use your imagination to feel it. We all played those little games when we were kids. Go play it again, but play it with the intention of having it actually happen and the anticipation that you are becoming that which you want to be, do, or have. And it will come to pass. How long is it going to take? Well, it's how long does it take to feel natural for you?
Got it. And that.
Lost you again for a moment. I heard got it, and then you disappeared.
Can you hear me now? I don't know what's going on.
Yes.
To making your annual income in a month.
Then you have to have a reason for it. I know Bob Proctor talks about, you know, make your monthly or your annual income your monthly income. Again, it's not just focusing. There's always, when we hear comments and quotes from people, we have to kind of get the backstory, I think. And that's what gets left out all the time, right? What led to them saying what they said, or what did they say before, or what did they say after? Or did they say something and do you have to go find something they said somewhere else to actually get it? So yes, Bob Proctor is a big proponent of that. And he goes, why do people not do it? It's because they just don't know how. They don't feel it's impossible. But in order to do that, you have to change your image of yourself. You're going to have to imagine yourself being more, doing more, and having more than what you have currently, because what we have currently is just a reflection. It's a reflection back to us of our self-image, of how we see ourselves. It's a reflection back of our assumptions. What we assume to be true, it gets reflected back to us as true. But yeah, you can make your annual, I did it. So I took my, well, yeah, I did it. I did it when I first, I guess I was off by a hair. I went from $5,000 to $6,000 a month income to $50,000 a month. So just under doing that, but I did it in a matter of just a few months. And for the lifestyle, and that wasn't actually my goal. My goal was a lifestyle, and the dollar figure just matched my lifestyle at the time that I wanted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else? Any comments or questions?
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
Hey, Landon.
Hey, just wanted to say that on my 300 list, I had to fly in a seaplane.
Okay.
And then I just had this random thought to go visit my uncle in Seattle over the last weekend, and we got to talking, and he sent me this picture of the plane we're going on this summer. He was like, we're going up on this cruise this summer, you're invited, and here's the plane we'll be flying in. I'm just like, sweet. You know, and that wasn't something I really focused on. It was just one random thing on my list, which was really cool to see.
That's why you do the 300 list. We can't focus on 300, nor are we supposed to, but we can ask and feel good about it just long enough that the seed gets planted. And not every seed needs us to take care of it. Some seeds just go in the ground, and the water and whatever minerals are in there. We don't have a subconscious. You didn't make it such a big deal that your subconscious mind didn't fight you on it. And you're like, Well, yeah, sure. I mean, that sometimes what is really cool is, oh yeah, sure. Right? Yeah, that
Right.
is possible. I believe it. So I'm going to just in my head have a little fun. Okay, write this down, read it. And then, yeah, okay, every time you read it, you get this little grin and then you go on, but you're not like, okay, how do I get to fly on a plane? How do I get to fly on a plane? Right.
Hmm.
And so stuff that's where the BMW happened for me. That's where I got to fly in a private plane, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really cool. By the way, I could hear both you and Sunshine trying to talk to each other the whole time. It was
Okay.
kind of
Okay.
funny.
Awesome. 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 Maybe it could be my end too. So that's all right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh. And by the way, you need to join us. You know that. I think, well, I think all of you should. But it's funny, there's somebody in our group that told me a couple weeks ago that they thought that you were going to end up joining us. They don't really know who you are, other than just like everybody else. So I think they actually want you in the group.
Well, that's good to hear. So I'm coming.
All right, awesome. Anybody else? Comments or questions?
Hi, Kevin. Hi, everybody.
Hey, we'd love to have you
Hey.
too. Love to have all of you. But you're another one. You're another one. You're all a, but those of you that comment, I'd get to know a little better.
Yes. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'm like working on it. So, but
Okay.
right. I know that's not good programming, but yeah. Okay, so I just want to ask a question about, like, I always say I want to be a millionaire, right? Or I'm going to be a millionaire. But I guess I'm thinking if I have faith, then I should just be saying I am a millionaire. Yes or no?
Yeah, first of all, yes. And your subconscious is going to fight you.
Right.
If you look at The
Well,
Secret, there was one person on The Secret. So there's different things you can do. You can eventually, there's ways to kind of sneak and slip into your subconscious and make things a little easier. And there's also the way of being relentless, and then your subconscious surrenders. So either way will get you there. The relentless one gives a little more emotional turmoil because you are saying something that your subconscious is going BS because you're not that thing. You're not that yet, right? But if you were to repeat it, but you have to have the right emotion about it, and you have to be ready for the kickback from the subconscious, almost like it's going to come back and say no BS, and you're, instead of crying and going, okay, I must not be, you're like, heck yeah, you're wrong, I'm right, and I'm the one in control of this. You're the one who serves me. Now I don't serve you, subconscious, you serve me, and this is natural and normal for me, and this is for me, and I am worthy, and I don't have to have any special worthiness, just because of who I am. This is what I've decided. Your job is to bring me what I asked for. Your job is to serve me, not the other way around. So you can play that game. But what you can do that would help out is you could do this little exercise that you could take a piece of paper and write out each day, what would my life be like if? So what would my life be like what would my life be like right now if? What would my life be like right now if, and then fill in the blank, if I was a multimillionaire? And then go write out your story and read the story, because your subconscious it'll get you thinking about it joyfully. And your subconscious mind can't fight you on the if, because there's still the if in there. So that doesn't totally make it solid, but it allows you to imagine and start getting there.
okay.
Right.
Okay.
So now you start picturing that you are, well, if I, what would it be like if I was right now, if I earned $100,000 a month? Right.
Mhm.
Well, what I would do is this, and you have, again, for the emotional, you have fun with it, but you've got to have a purpose for the money too. If you don't have a purpose for the money, you tend to not receive it. I mean, you can play games like $5, $20 and receive it. But when you're talking about something, that's not a lot more for God. 100,000, $1, a million's nothing. God, it's all the same thing. But for us, if we don't have this emotional purpose for it that we feel good about, and we don't see ourselves as having it and feel, and I hate we do this to ourselves. It's programming. We're not worthy or unworthy of anything. Okay. But that has something to do with most people's programming around money.
Okay. Because see, I don't focus. I guess it was just the terminology. Like I'm going to be a millionaire versus I am a
Yes,
millionaire.
that part of it, you're putting it out into the future. And
Okay,
so it
so I
stays
should.
out, so it stays out in the future. I'm going to be. Somewhere the switch has to happen in your heart and in your feelings
Okay.
to I am. So there's going to have to be a switch, or it's always I'm going to be. Also, sometimes going to be lets us off the hook
Hmm.
because we don't put in the same emotional attachment and effort into creating it.
Okay. And what if because I say a lot like I'm going to be a millionaire by, and I put the year date then, because I feel like it's a goal for me
I
to
know.
shoot for, but I don't know if that's not right.
Well, I mean, Jack Canfield wanted the 100,000 in a year, right? And he wanted it that particular year, and he hadn't made anything anywhere close to that previously. So it was for him, it was big, right? Um, but I'm a big proponent. If you want something, particularly a dollar amount, instead of shooting for goals, because I just think it's easier. I don't, I personally don't shoot for many goals with dates attached. Now, there are things that will come into my life occasionally where it's not like my list of things I want to do, but now something comes into my life where it has a date, right? I didn't create the date was created somewhere else. Like I'm going to attend something and here's the date that it happens, and I'm trying to come up with a way to afford to do it. Now there's a deadline. I didn't go create that deadline. It got created for me. Then I know that, but I still visualize myself doing that thing. Like if there's an event, I see myself I don't focus on how do I come up with the money for the event. I see myself and feel myself participating in the event as if I'm already there. And then eventually an idea to turn right, left, call someone, text someone, or whatever comes in order for me to receive either the money to pay for it or talk to the person that says, hey, Kevin, I'll let you in the door. You know, whatever it is that needs to happen. But I don't start out typically first by trying to figure out how to do it or pay for it. If I already know how, for those of you that are on here that like, yeah, I've got the money, I know how to do it and pay for it, then you don't have to set this goal. Right? You have to decide if you will or won't pay for it, but you don't have to set any kind of goal for that. You just, am I going to spend my money for that or not? It's only when we're shooting for something outside of what we could go do. And you go, well, I don't want to go into debt. Well, then you're telling God in the universe, he already gave you the resource that you're not willing to go use. That's different, because then you're not trusting God to replenish you. Some of you guys have credit cards that could actually use it and participate, but you may, because you were in debt before, you're afraid to get into debt again. Instead of going, okay, I'm going to be taught how to never have debt for the rest of my life and how to always manifest what I want. And I trust God is telling me, go ahead and swipe that card because I know God can replace it instead of the fear that it can be replaced. What debt is a tool. That's what it's really been meant for. People have used it differently than a tool. Okay. But debt is a tool to help you become more of what it is that you want to become when it's used correctly. There's not a real estate investor on the planet out there that either isn't using their own debt or somebody else's debt to build their portfolios. And now I'm not saying that you want to be 100% debt or anything, but I'm saying that the world functions in that way and grows that way. That's why banks exist. And that's why private lenders exist, right? So there are reasons to do it. And when you are taking, or let's say you've got $5,000 in savings and you're like, yeah, but I'm jobless right now. Well, don't you think if you learned the right principles and got the right coaching that you ultimately would be wealthy and never be jobless ever again for the rest of your life? And again, wouldn't you trust God to just go replace it? So I trust God now that if I have to pull from somewhere that I originally wasn't thinking of or wanting to, I immediately go, if I feel intuitively that I should, but I'm fighting it because it's my decision, that I will never do this again because I did something before, I got in debt before, and now I don't want to ever again. I'm not telling people randomly go get in debt. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying if the thought comes to your mind and you could do it, then I would go to God and say, hey, God, I'm about to do this. This is a decision. This is what I want to do. I trust that you will replace it for me. And I trust it will happen in a relatively short period of time. And I trust that things will work out. So this is my intention. This is what I intend to do. If I'm not supposed to do it, stop me right now and tell me how to do it. Give me another way to do it. But if not, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to trust that you will help make it possible for me to replace that money on the credit card, or make the payment for 3 months until I, change into the person that can pay it off just like that. I mean, I went into $38,000 worth of debt and paid it with no idea how to pay it off, and paid it off in 4 months.
Wow. Okay. So I know that, yes, that's me. I need programming or reprogramming, because I could swipe a credit card, but the other part of me says, no, go figure out a way to do that, to
God
have
already
it.
did. God gave you the good credit's only good for a few things. So in all seriousness, people have these weird, I've been around, and here's why I'm sharing this. I'm not strictly sharing law of attraction right now, strictly. I've also been an entrepreneur for a lot of years. And I've also helped train over 300 people to become real estate investors. Okay. So I know what these things are used for. And a lot of people get, something happened in their life, so their credit went bad. So now they're afraid to ever do anything ever again. But your credit score is only good for a few things in life. Okay. It only really tends to matter for most people. If they're using it, you're going to use it for a house, probably. I'm not talking about an investor. I'm just talking your average person. You're only really going to probably use it. And if you're using it for other stuff, you probably ought not to be. You're going to use it to better your life. So you're going to use it to get a house or a car. Outside of buying a house or a car, what else would you actually need credit for?
Mhm.
So these people, I don't want to put stuff on credit because I've got a 760 credit score right now. And if I go put $5,000 on my $10,000 card, it might drop to 680. Not forever, right?
Right.
But
Yeah, I think it's not, for me, it's not that. It's just my thinking of like, okay, I'm still trying to get on this goal. At the same time, I'm trying to figure out like how
I
else
know
to
you,
make money.
yeah, I,
Yeah, you're right.
and I'm telling you, have fun and watch the rest of
Right.
this take off on you. And then you'll be like, oh, shoot. Because we're going to
Right.
keep coming back. I promise you that when the people that are on this, they're going to come back and they're going to razz all of you guys. I'm going to tell them to razz you, because they're, and you're going to look back and go, well, they got to where they wanted this year. I didn't.
I could have done it as well. Right. No, you're
But I'm too
right.
freaking stubborn. I want to figure it out. If you wanted to figure it out already, you'd have done it already. You haven't figured it out because you haven't gone with faith. You're using your head.
Yeah, that's true. I can admit it. I'm using my head. I'm trying to figure out the numbers, how to make it work.
Screw it.
Yeah.
That's not faith. It's, hey, do I or do I want to do it? And okay, God, I trust that you will replenish whatever it is that I need to do to go do it.
You're right. You're right. But can I also ask you one other question?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you're seeing like signs, right? Like only if you're open, right, to it. Like in the movie The Secret, like you could see stuff, but if you're not having faith, if you're not open, right, to it, then you won't always be able to connect stuff or even hear that this is really for you. Like when the Jack Kent, Jack Kent,
Uh-huh.
right? Like you said, the Inquirer magazine, why it meant anything to him, it did. And there was a connection, but had he just walked by the magazine or heard it, but then didn't
Blew it
respond
off.
to it, or
Yeah, blew it
right,
off.
blow it off. Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
goodness we talked about this yesterday, I think, or at least another time. If we mess it up, because that's the other part too, we're afraid to mess up. We hate messing up. Okay. If I make this decision, I screw it up, right? That is what forgiveness is for.
Right.
There is karma, but if we make a mistake, or when I say commit a sin, right? Let's take sin better the way it's being explained here, that I'm not actually living the way I ought to live and not going through the process. That's more the sin. I'm not talking about going and shooting someone, okay, or whatever. You know, if we do something and the outcome wasn't what we wanted it to be, and we know that we're the one at fault because of our attitude, what we said or did, or right, you don't have to freak out about that and go, oh, I'm totally screwed now. I go back to God and say, hey, look, I admit, please help me fix it.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
please
I
fix
I
it.
think I was just more saying that it's you know, like having this an awareness of like your surroundings, of things being, you know, listening with your ears, but looking with your eyes, and like see things, because I guess you could miss everything, right? If
It
you
wasn't even his eyes. I had this, what was this? And it happened to me, I think it was yesterday. So we ordered something from Amazon. Okay. Doesn't matter what it was. We ordered something from Amazon the other day, and whoever went to go deliver it to us 2 days ago, they didn't get it to us. And so we got one of those messages from Amazon, tried to deliver, weren't able to, blah, 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 blah. Right. And I'm like, I'm looking at, I'm like, I put very specific instructions and everything. Don't know why that happened. Yes, this was so interesting yesterday, but this being in tune. For some reason, I got this thought, and I hadn't really thought about that Amazon order, but I'm like, okay, it's supposed to come today. As in, it hadn't come yet or whatever, and that's fine. I'm sitting in a chair and I'm thinking, go look at the Amazon order. So as I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't look like it's been delivered yet, which is totally fine, right? And something said, go out and open the door. I go out and open the door, and I see the Amazon guy walking out there around there. And I wave at him. He goes, oh, you're the one. Bam.
Mhm.
If I hadn't opened the door, the dude probably would have again not delivered the package to me. It was that instant, that moment, right? I don't have like some goal to receive all my Amazon packages on time, right? That's not on my list of whatever. But there was this intuition that I need to go do something. And so I try and listen to that. And the only way I'm really able to hear those types of things usually, and I say hear, feel, or whatever, is I can't be so busy with what I want that I'm not open to listening to what God wants. Let me repeat that. I'm not so busy with what I want in my own head. I should say want. I'm not so busy in my own head like I used to be years ago that I won't pay attention to God. Even though I love God and I loved him then just like I do now. It's not like I did or didn't believe in God and it changed, or I loved or didn't love God and it changed. I've believed in God and loved God for a long time. Okay. As far as I know, my entire life pretty much. But I haven't always been open to saying, I'm going to receive whatever help he's willing to give me. But I also messed up. And by the way, Rich, I apologize, because had I been paying attention, the reason I missed last night is some reason in my head, I thought it was a different day than it was. And God tried to tell me something, to stop doing something, and I didn't stop doing it. And so I missed what I was supposed to be doing with Rich and some other people, because in my mind, I thought yesterday was Wednesday. And I was supposed to be with them on a Tuesday. I knew Tuesday was the night. So I missed spending my time with them like I was supposed to, because I messed up my day.
Yeah,
So,
thanks, Kevin. Main thing, I was concerned. I was hoping that you were okay.
yeah, I'm
Was
fine.
was main concern, because you're always very prompt and reliable and stuff. So, thanks.
I try to be, but when I don't listen to God and I got busy, and I'll be honest, what I was doing at the time feels stupid, because I was busy, but I wasn't busy doing anything important. I was watching an NBA game. So I'm sorry, Rich, but I'll make it up to you. Anyhow.
No problem.
Yeah. So I was listening in order to get the package, which was important. I wasn't listening in order to be on with Rich and probably 2 or 3 other people that I was supposed to have been with last night. So But I was thinking this morning, you know, I hope at least one of you guys pop on today, particularly Rich. I was hoping he'd pop on today, and boom, there you were, because you weren't here yesterday. So I got to tell you. Any other? We've gotten longer today, but I'm having fun, and looks like not too many of you have gone and disappeared. Any other questions or comments before we go?
Just a quick question. Do you have any? What would be next Tuesday instead, or
I'm
later on?
thinking, when would you like it?
It doesn't matter.
Would
Really.
you like it tomorrow?
That would be fine.
At an earlier time, and I'll let you pick as long as I'm not busy. I'll let you, Rich, since you showed up today. I'll let you pick the time. I'll let you pick the time and date, and then we'll tell the other people what it's going to be.
I'm open. You know, the
Okay,
same.
send me an email.
Okay, same time's good. Tomorrow or next Tuesday, either one's good. Yeah, just let me know. But
Okay.
by the way, Audrey and Michael were the other two that were on.
Okay.
Last night.
Perfect.
What's that?
Okay, perfect. So I know who to invite back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Rich. So we're going to do it tomorrow at the same time.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Awesome. See you tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome. Okay. Any last questions or comments before we go? All right. Well, I appreciate you spending the time with us. I know we went over a bit. Hopefully some of that was useful and helpful for everybody. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
You're welcome. Uh-huh.